to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Very recently, we did a show on Legally Speaking which talked of two Indian lawyers who shifted their practice from India and relocated to United Kingdom. We all know those two names. They were Gopal Subramaniam, senior advocate, and senior advocate Harish Salve. Both have become members of the bar and, in fact, doing good practice. But there is another rare breed of individuals, lawyers from India, who have become door tenants in United Kingdom and international member of chambers. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the number of such people and individuals is very few. When I was doing my research for the show, I found out there are more than 11 or 12 people from this country and lakhs of lawyers are here. And we have 4 such eminent individuals among us today. They will share with us the importance and the experience they gain by becoming member and door tenants at these chambers, the kind of learnings, the kind of practice, as also what kind of synergies happen when they became member. Let me introduce you my panel today evening. I have with me senior advocate Ratan Singh. He is international member of Keating Chambers, which is very well known for construction arbitration and construction law. Welcome, Mr. Ratan Singh. I have with me Sudhir Mishra. As we all know, he's the managing partner of Trust Legal, one of India's leading law firms, but he's also a door tenant at 5 Barristers Chamber, which in a sense, a year or two ago is when he made that mark. I have with me senior advocate Arvind Nair, very familiar place at the Delhi Bar and at the Supreme Court and various tribunals and the NCLT. He has become the overseas member at 4 New Square. I have with me for the first time on this show today, Sherbir Panag. We all know he's the managing partner of Panag and Babu law firm, and he has become door tenant at Foundry Chambers. So I would first of all request my panelists for a round of opening comments. May I request Sudhir Mishra to lead the charge? He comes from a law firm and has become a door tenant. What in a sense led you to make this decision that you want to give those 5-6 interviews, become a door tenant, and what has changed in the practice?
Tarun, thank you for this opportunity. It's a very logical culmination of what I have been doing for 20 years. I went on a Fulbright exchange program under International Visitors Leadership Program in 2005 to US. And it opened up to me that basically the legal profession has to go more seamless world over. And I was the New York Bar India chair for the International Committee in 2010-11. I was part of International Bar Association almost for a decade and more. I have been office bearer of IBA for many things. And I realized that you have to converge all these things, and ultimately legal profession in English speaking countries have very common tone. For last 2 years during the pandemic, it was a time of discovery. It was a time to try new things. And one of the agenda for me was to make my climate change and environmental law practice more global. And most of my work on climate change is something where the issues are common. And that was the pitch I took to number 5 Barristers Chamber. It started in 2019. There were a series of interviews. And number 5 Barristers Chamber is a like 100 and odd years people have been hearing about them. But today, the Attorney General of United Kingdom is from my chamber. So that is the kind of participation they have. It has been their first that an Indian lawyer has joined this chamber. I'm learning. As of now, I'm just learning. And there are a lot of misconceptions which we have. They are getting cleared. And it's a tremendously learning opportunity to start with.
Point well taken. I'll go to Senior Advocate Ratan K. Singh at this point. Now, you, as we know, are chairman of the India branch of the Society of Construction Law, United Kingdom. The India chapter is what you head. Keating Chambers, as we all know, is also where construction arbitration happens on a large scale. Do you think, was it just an extension of your India practice that you chose to become an international member at Keating Chambers? Could you share with the audience?
First of all, the first thing first. uh, what is this expression, do tenant? Do tenants are advocates or senior advocates who has been granted permission to join a set of barristers or Queen's Counsel's chamber in London, if you're talking about London, and work with them from premises outside the chambers. And this concept is now loosely repackaged as international member or associate member when it comes to non-English lawyers. Benefits and advantages for taking a do tenancy can differ from person to person. But obviously, there are some general pointers that may be common to all. My chairmanship of Society of Construction Law India branch was one development in my professional career in life, which really brought me closer to the UK bar. Apart from my directorship of India branch of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK. Because of these two international organizations headquartered in UK, I got closer to UK bar. Apart from my international practice, international arbitration practice and arbitrations seated in London. One of the regions, obviously, do tenancy remains in the wish list of any lawyer who practices on commercial side or construction side generally. So this was, again, in my wish list as well. But one thing which was crossing my mind was, as I have been promoting construction law in India through the chairmanship of Society of Construction Law and through various international conferences and seminars, I wanted some better and permanent ties with construction set of London. And when I looked at this, I had no other name but Keating Chambers, which is world's one of the two topmost construction law barristers chambers. And this is how, in fact, everybody would know that the most sought after book on construction law, that is Keating on Construction Contracts, that is again a creation of Keating Chambers. And you have people like Sir Vivian Ramsay, who was once head of Keating Chambers. Lots of books, fundamental books written on construction law, such as one book which is written by Professor John Uff, is again from Keating Chambers. So this was, as Sudhir said, for me again, it was a natural progression. And this is how I landed in Keating Chambers.
Okay, thanks for sharing these things with us. I'll go to Senior Advocate Arvind Nair. Mr. Nair, you have a flourishing practice in Delhi, and I think you're hands-on with the courts here. So why this, in a sense, extension? I know you're not relocating to UK, but you became an overseas member at 4 New Square. What do you intend to do, and how it adds to what you do here?
First of all, Tarun, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for that compliment. I look at it like this. At the end of the day, no matter how much time we spend practicing, at the end of the day, we are still students of law. And I think the constant dynamic of this field is that we never stop learning. So from that perspective, I think we should be open to assimilating and experiencing from any location, any institution. Just like my colleagues mentioned before me, I have been associated in the past with the LCIA. Now they have an India chapter also, the London Court of International Arbitration. So I was very active the last 15 years on the conference circuit. I was, in fact, also a member of the Young International Arbitrators Group. That was, of course, that is one of their subgroups and open to lawyers under the age of 40. So from my view, essentially the learning part of it is one reason. The other is, as Sudhir said, in the pandemic, there has been so much of change. I think we've gotten to a situation where innovation and evolution, which probably would have taken the next 2 decades, has happened in the last 2 years. So, physical boundaries have disappeared. In fact, I have participated in arbitrations where one side is sitting in Canada, the other side is sitting in Australia, the tribunal is sitting in UK, somebody is sitting in Mumbai. So from that perspective, this is actually the right time for these synergies. The UK has followed common law, but practice and procedure is very similar to us. We have many similarities. In fact, even though we are in 2022, but you won't be surprised if you still find Privy Council judgments being quoted, 1930s and 20s. Of course, the Honorable Supreme Court was established in 4950. But before that, today, with some civil disputes and all, you still find Privy Council judgments being quoted. You also, even today, have member nations of the Commonwealth, where the Privy Council acts as a Court of Judicial Appeal, as the High Court of Judicial Appeal. So there has always been this synergy. And the one intention is to, benefit from this experience. The other is I am essentially a commercial litigator. 4 News Square is a leading set in several fields. What particularly attracted me was that I have a lot of interest in sports law, which I think is one of the fields which is not yet reached its potential in India. And now with so many commercial leagues, IPL has been around for a good 10 years or more. We have the Kabaddi League, we have a football league, we have other leagues coming up. So I think we can also learn and we can enrich ourselves from their experience of sports law. We also have a lot of litigation now in insurance and reinsurance, not the traditional insurance claims, but also reinsurance. And then professional negligence. So 4 News Square is a leading set of chambers for these 3 or 4 fields, amongst others. So that has been the idea, to learn from those experiences, to enrich our own knowledge base, and also to contribute, of course.
Okay, point well taken. I'll now take this to Sherbir Panag, managing partner, Panag and Babu. If I look at this panel, he's one of the youngest members who took this decision to become a door tenant at Foundry Chambers. Was it, Sherbir, your desire to extend your firms and your practice to UK that made you take this call early in life?
Thanks, Tarun, and thanks for having me here. I think for us, the decision to sort of take on a door tenancy was sort of driven on, I think, three pillars. First and foremost, a lot of my practice is white collar crime law, and we're one of the largest teams in the country in terms of lawyers by a significant number that sort of specialize in this spectrum, and a lot of our work ends up becoming multi-jurisdictional. Something that has resonance in India may end up having a stock exchange issue in the United Kingdom, may have something in the US, may have something in Germany, so on and so forth. So for a period of time, the practice had already become significantly multi-jurisdictional. And in fact, the culmination for the door tenancy was actually a reverse engineering for us, because several years ago, I had formed a network called the Roxine Alliance, which was sort of driven around a very celebrated German criminal law professor, and to bring about boutique white collar crime law firms. And then subsequently, we started feeling that, the practice, the scale of the offenses we are dealing with, the scale of the clients we are dealing with, the resources at stake has become significantly larger, and we need to move away from boutique firms to slightly larger firms. And we founded a group of leading law firms, some of the largest, some of the AmLaw 50 firms, with a large UK firm, a large Norwegian firm, and us. We founded something called the Concilium Network, which was, again, a white collar crime focused focused network to be able to help our clients seamlessly across jurisdictions. And I think that's a common theme that we are hearing here today, whether from Mr. Nair, whether from Mr. Mishra or Mr. Singh, is that, our practices are becoming global. And we are responding to a globalized world, whether it's in construction, whether it's in commercial matters, environment law, climate change, so on and so forth. And just like that, white collar crime is also significantly global as a practice. So what started out with, while we were getting a significant amount of law firms that were coming in, the practice of white collar crime in most jurisdictions, and even for that matter, the US, while we are, at the heart of it, we have significant similarities with law. On the practical side, is not as adversarial as ours. It's a lot more of deferred prosecution agreements, settlement with law enforcement authorities, which is not the practice that we had here. So I thought one of the key missing elements for us was that while we were getting in the best practices for internal investigations, for dealing with on securities matters with regulators, I think the core practice of white collar crime qua our criminal courts was something where our network, the existing networks weren't really cutting it. And I think that sort of drove my decision that let's go and let's get a closer jurisdiction, closer to us in terms of actual practical experience, and let's get aligned there. And Foundry Chambers, I think all of us are extremely proud of our chambers and sets. So just like we've heard from the other panelists, I'm exceptionally proud of Foundry Chambers. It's one of the leading white collar crime criminal law sets, got one of the finest names in QCs and silks in this space. So it was a natural choice for, to sort of build a bridge between both quality worlds and move forward with it. I think, of course, barring the obvious of, a globalized practice, barring the obvious of knowledge exchange, we are definitely very keen that our firm will have a London office in due course. And I think this helps set stage, helps us get more assimilated with the UK legal market, and hopefully in the course of the next 5 years we'll be in London.
Okay. Best wishes on that count, that when you said that you'll use this as a launch pad for your London operations. On this note, I will take a short break and we'll go to Sudhir Mishra on the other side of the break. We had Sherbir Panag explaining to us the strategy, the thinking that went behind his taking a decision to become a member of Foundry Chambers in the United Kingdom. And he said that an office in UK is not too far away for his law firm. We will now go to Sudhir Mishra at Trust Legal, managing partner. As we all know, when you introduced him, he's, as we said, tenant at 5 Barristers Chamber. Mr. Mishra, if you could share with us, in times of global capital, in times of companies having operations in many countries, it becomes a natural progression for a law firm and for a lawyer to, in a sense, be available to provide his service in various jurisdictions. And you guys, in a sense, this panel today are the first movers in India in this. You thought ahead of your time. Do you think this is where everyone is going to go in future? We had this in the ad industry where a London-based ad agency used to set up a Bombay office. Of course, that worked. Do you think law firms have also picked up that we will give you, when there is money coming in from UK to India, when there is money going from here to UK and many other jurisdictions? Do you think all of this becomes important and you are one of the first movers there?
Tarun, there are many things actually. You know what has happened? In 2002 or 3, I was in Durban attending International Bar Association. There were roughly 25 to 30 Indian lawyers. And the last International Bar Association conference, which happened in Seoul before the pandemic came, that was September 2019, we had 400 lawyers from India alone. I'm just going to talk data to you. Now, that's the journey you have done already. And then you have Indo-Pacific Bar Association, New York State Bar Association, American Bar Association. And how much has changed in the last 2 years? You have been witness, your shows have changed. We have launched many new things. We, like Arvind said, that so many new opportunities have happened only because of the pandemic. I will tell you one instance. I was the direct result of your comfort in London. And I'll only talk about London because I keep on hearing that the number 5 barrister chamber, because of the kind of profile they have, the number of silks they have, that when Arvind was in London last month, we had series of matters with him. My team was getting up at 4 o'clock in Delhi. No, he was getting up at 4 o'clock in London because he had to appear in the courts in Delhi. We were offering him that, okay, you can use the office there. And they were ready to open the offices there for him. So there is nothing like law firms or anything. People are more interested in the product. Now, what it does, it cuts layers actually. Perception management is an issue. If you are an advocate on record firm in Supreme Court like we are, it creates a perception that, okay, there is one layer of lawyering, so-called, like it's like puja, that you have this Panditji, that Panditji, another Panditji coming. So it's cutting the layers. So when you are a door tenant in London, what is the perception here? For an Indian businessman who is based in London, it gives you a comfort if you're already knowing him and you know how many of them we work with. If you are a legal icon in London, you are looking at India with some kind of optimism, opening up of the boundaries, bilateral trade investment treaty, which is going to happen any moment. Everybody is talking to you. All the educational institutions which want to come to India, like we just got an invitation why I'm traveling also to UK. Suddenly, a huge comfort factor comes in because of the perception management. So it's also a perception. And you realize because of your English speaking quality,
Yes.
because of your common roots, common heritage, common culture, there is a lot of trust there. With whatever outward thing will happen, there is a lot of trust between both the legal systems. Our issues are largely in common. And then lastly, most important part is when you hire a counsel for anything in London, you used to go to a law firm, a Magic Circle law firm or a smaller firm, then they will take you to a barrister. So a lot of that bypass is now happening where we go for advices to certain people directly. I think that's a huge change for me. At least in the last 8 months, we have learned a lot that how much it has created opportunities both ways.
Point well taken. We are running short of time, so we will now rush with our comments. I will go to Senior Advocate Ratan K. Singh. Indian businessmen in the past few years, one business house, the Tatas, we all know a few years ago, emerged as the largest employer in the United Kingdom. We know many others who are doing equally well and employing a large number. Case in point is the hotel acquisitions by Indian players. We all know Indian hotel companies have acquired assets abroad. An Indian security company acquired the second largest security company in UK. I think it was Diwan Rahul Nanda many years ago when he set up office in UK. So a lot of investment is happening, especially because you concerned with the construction part of it. Can you share with us that do you see your practice becoming, dual jurisdictional, where you would also work in UK for a couple of months a year, or go to do transactions there, or go to do cases there, go to do arbitrations there? Of course, Sudhir mentioned the comfort factor. If Indian businessmen are putting in so much of money, it only adds to their comfort if they have a fellow Indian, in a sense, who understands both jurisdictions. From where the money flows in, that's from India, and from where the money is headed, which is UK. Can you share that with us, please?
Tarun, my practice largely is international commercial arbitration and focus on construction arbitration. Today, most of the multinational construction companies are having their presence in India.
Yes.
Similarly, lots of Indian construction companies are having their presence abroad in multiple jurisdictions. Large amount of investment in India comes from infrastructure and engineering companies. And there comes expectations about contract enforcement, dispute resolution that can match international standards. And as I said earlier, Keating has been everywhere in the world, done every kind of dispute advisory, and truly a global leader. In fact, in last 10 years, it has got construction set of the year award 8 times out of 10 years. And the benefit which I get now, and the Indian companies, construction companies in India and multinational companies in India get now is, with my association with Kitting Chambers, now I have access to experienced and seasoned barristers, Queen's Counsels and junior counsels from Kitting Chambers, who can work with me for any particular project where we really need a larger team. So that comfort, the Indian as well as multinational client would really get international experience. They'll really get through this arrangement, and that is what I'm really looking at.
Thank you for sharing that view with us, Mr. Ratan Singh. I'll go to Senior Advocate Arvind Nair. Mr. Nair, likewise for you. Do you look at eventually working at multi-jurisdictional clients? You see a lot of Indians are having big businesses in UK. Do you look forward to, in a sense, even getting business for the chambers that you are a member at? In the sense, clients for those chambers. Second, do you also look at spending at least a month or two every year in London and doing some work there?
He's already spending.
Let me. I think I can give a single answer to both your questions. Absolutely, I do look forward to building that kind of practice. And let me add, in any case, I was going to point out, in any case, a very large percentage of the commercial disputes that we are all acting in, they all emanate from a very large percentage emanates from cross-border transactions. And that is only going to increase. You spoke about the hotel acquisition business, but India today is the destination for so much of FDI. You saw the recent budget. There is the entire building block of the budget is the focus on infrastructure. So that is much as people who are involved on those transactions wish that nobody needs lawyers, but the fact is there will be disputes. There will be disputes arising out of contracts that are executed elsewhere. So that's one part of it. And so definitely we all look forward to that. The other is that, it's since we have spoken about London and we are all coincidentally attached to barrister sets in London, it's not just about London. It's also about that location being your gateway to the rest of the world. In fact, I can straight away give an example. You opened the show by referring to a very, very eminent person who sort of was a trailblazer insofar as this field was concerned. And he, Mr. Salve, did very well at the International Court of Justice. So, it's not just about practical time differences. If Ratan or me or Shervi or Sudhi, we have to act in a proceeding which is happening in New York, it's also logistically simpler. So it's actually an idea whose time has come. And so that's the reason I think it's a gateway. In fact, that reminds me, many years ago, before we were all overseas members or associate members, Mr. Singh and I were co-counsels in an arbitration which took place in Singapore. Now, had we had this opening, perhaps we would have ensured, because that was a venue chosen by consent, we perhaps could have had that arbitration in London. So that's what the focus being. It's a gateway, whether it's the United States, there are so many territories.
Point well taken. Thanks for sharing that perspective with us, Mr. Senior Advocate Arvind Nair. I'll go to Sherbeet Panag, Managing Partner, Panag and Babu. You get to close the show today. So your closing comments on, the question.
Thanks, Tarun. So I think London becomes one such destination for us. I think it gives us, it's the administrative and logistical convenience for the European market. There are several other, Germany is exceptionally important to us as a firm, as is the United States. And I think London sort of helps us logistically to be able to access European markets as well as access American markets. And I think to close, Tarun, what's more important is that the time has come both for, India is going to remain an exceptionally important market for global investments. And likewise, the time and the prestige of Indian capital has also arrived, where Indian capital is moving internationally. And the legal profession has to move with Indian capital and has to be able to be quality counsel to global capital in India. And I think while while London becomes the stepping stone, we are going to, I think we are over the years, I think the next time probably I'm going to put one out there, a mark for the future with the audacity of hope. I think it's going to start with London, but the next barrier for all of us is going to be Silicon Valley, and is going to be in terms of real offices in Silicon Valley, not notional offices that some firms have set up, but real, fully functional Indian offices, Indian law firms in Silicon Valley, and other important investment destinations. So I think that's sort of the way I look at it.
I'm glad you mentioned Germany, because Germany has about $365 billion of exports globally, but a lot of auto component, basically inputs going from India. India does a lot of trade with Germany. So I think that's a good market there. Well point there. Mr. Ratan, 30 seconds, but only 30 seconds.
Only 30 seconds, not more than that. There is one confusion sometimes that whether do tenants really get settled in London. No, answer is no. We continue to remain in India. We continue to do our practice in India. However, on need-based basis.
Yes.
We really travel.
You are available in London.
Which we were doing in any case. So we are here.
And thanks for pointing that out. Many people do want to know. So with this, I would like to thank Sudhir Mishra, Managing Partner, Trust Legal. And it would be in the order of things to also read out their memberships. So door tenant at 5 Barristers Chamber, Senior Advocate Ratan Singh, International Member at Keating Chambers, Senior Advocate Arvind Nair is Overseas Member at 4 New Square, and Sherbir Panag, Managing Partner, Panag and Babu, who's also door tenant at Foundry Chambers. Appreciate your joining us. It was indeed a pleasure having all of you on Legally Speaking with Tarun Nangia. This is the part 1 of this series. The part 2 is yet to come. And viewers, on the next part, we'll have 4 such new faces. You know, there are only 11. And 4 you've seen today, 4 you'll see in the next show. And it would be very interesting. Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.